He's having an executive session.
Is he?
I'll be there. Yeah. I think
Well, I need to be all the way over there.
I want to sit that close to you or not.
Oh, come on. It's all good. Everybody ready to get started? Everybody ready to get started here? Are we testing? Is this a thing? Commander Steve, are we good? Wing Commander? All right. It is 3:02. It is Wednesday, November 1st. We're in the Independence Utility Center. I'm Dan Hobart. I'll call to order the Audit Finance Committee for the City of Independence. Present are myself, City Council Member John Perkins, and Jared Fears. We're all present. Additional attendees are, we've got City Manager Zach Walker. We've got a couple of department directors here today. Special attendees, Tom Scannell, Community Development. We've got Morris Heidi from Parks and Rec, straight off a television show. And luckily today, who else do we have? We've got, well, Cindy Grave, but she's sort of required to be here, really. And I can't remember anybody else's name here. Who else do we have?
Can I introduce our
Please,
staff?
please, please.
So Chase Carper over aquatics was one of his roles, farmers market, etc.
Oh,
Jody
excellent.
Wynn, assistant director, recreation services. Kimberly Franks, fiscal administrator for the department, and Jennifer Kim, staff assistant. For
Oh,
Parks and Recreation
fantastic.
Services. So,
Wonderful. Awesome. And I know there's other,
We have Stephanie Harris.
Yes.
Our accounting manager, and our reporting manager, Nancy Cooper.
yes, who have both filled in for you admirably at different times, and I just, for whatever reason, can't remember your names.
And yes, we have Melissa Sill and Turner Adams, our budget team.
That's right, straight from Branson Moe.
Budget Central.
Welcome, guys. Not anymore.
Budget Central.
Have you both moved up here?
Yeah, we both live here now.
Awesome. Well, good. Glad to hear that.
Catch up, will you, Dan?
Well, you know, I've been busy, man. I've been busy. Okay, we've got everybody present and accounted for. Approval of minutes. Got a motion? You guys had a chance to read them?
Yes.
Yes, I don't have any
Look good to
corrections.
me.
Motion?
I move.
Second.
Okay. Minutes from April 26th are approved. Boy, it's been a while since we met. Okay. Doesn't look like do we have any carryover business? Doesn't look like there's anything. Management analyst items.
We don't have one.
Yeah, I know we don't have one. Boy, we need one. The position is listed. I was going to suggest, gentlemen, that we make a recommendation to the city council that we utilize the services of the recruiter that he has employed to get us our most recent city clerk candidates. The most recent round of candidates that he got us were pretty great. And Well, I know we can't talk about what we did in executive session really, but
But I thought that, that the recruitment came through HR, didn't it? Yeah.
are they the ones that use the recruiter, Mr. City Manager?
Part of the reorganization and filling out of that department, they have added a position that specializes in recruitment now. And this city clerk position was the first one that new individual worked on. So those slate of candidates that the council's been evaluating came from the new recruiter that is employed by Human Resources.
Well, then I would like to, I'd make that recommendation. I'm sure gentlemen, you'd be on board with that, I guess.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so let's forward that recommendation on since Mr. City Manager's sitting here.
Who are we gonna use that for?
To have the new recruiter in HR focus on finding us some candidates for the management analyst position.
Are we not in the process of concluding that?
Well, hopefully, but if it doesn't work out, we need to, if that doesn't come through in the next week or two for some reason, then
Fair enough.
we need to stock up on some more candidates because it's been, what, eight months?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we got to get that position filled. We're in dire need of projects for that position. Okay, moving on. Next item, finance items. Monthly financial presentation. I don't know if we want to. I'm sorry, Cindy. Do we want to take Morris out of order so he can get his folks out of here? Anybody have a problem with that?
Fine with me.
I don't know what you're doing here, Tom. Do you have something that's faster than all them? You're only one person versus half the room.
I'll let Morris go first.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Well then, Mr. Heidi, please. Let's see here.
Happy to be here this afternoon. Morris Heidi, Director of Parks, Recreation, Tourism. Of late, there's been some discussion about Adventure Oasis Water Park, and so we just wanted to share some information regarding the water park with you today. So several discussion points we're going to go through this afternoon, a little background about and information about Adventure Oasis, talk a little bit about income and expenditures, operational cost increases that we've experienced over the last couple years, talk a little bit about capital needs that we are facing in the near distant future at Adventure Oasis, talk about our attendance numbers over the last 5 or 6 years. And then what really has prompted this was the city staff follow-up items that were requested several weeks ago. We were asked to put together our staff's recommendations on the proposal for free passes to Adventure Oasis. We'll also talk about the financial viability of Adventure Oasis. And on Monday, we were able to have a park commission meeting, and so we have their recommendation included as well. So a little background information about Adventure Oasis. The water park opened in 2005, so 18 years ago. We have always managed the park with a third-party vendor, in this case Midwest Pool Management. As far back as our records show, that's at least my information that we have available to us. So that's kind of been consistent through all those years. The capacity for the water park is 1,600, so 1,600 participants at one time. Of special note, and this we'll talk about a little bit later when we talk about capital needs, there has been no new water features added since opening in 2005, which has been, I believe, a detriment to that facility. Obviously, it was closed with COVID during the 2020 season. That affected 2 fiscal years, obviously. And the resident only, as a reminder, when we did open post-COVID, we were open for, I believe it was about 2 weeks to everyone, and then due to some issues that we had at the time, most of Kansas City water parks were closed. Lee Summit Facility, Summit Waves, and ourselves were mainly the two water parks in the area that were open. So both Summit Waves and Blue Springs and Venture Oasis, dramatic, confluence of folks attending, and that prompted, because of those issues, to us to go to resident only about 2 weeks into the 2021 season. So this may be a little hard to read. I don't know if you have a printed out copy. Hopefully you do. But we went back to FY18, fiscal year 18, and tried to kind of break down the revenue side, the expense side. I should note there's two items of information there under FY18. This was under the old J.D. Edwards system, so we weren't able to actually extrapolate those costs for MPM, but the totals are correct for FY18. So on the left side there, you're seeing the total revenues. Our staff, internal PRT staff, salary and benefits, obviously we're managing that contract. We have our own staff, assisting and overseeing the water park. MPM's, Midwest Pool Management, their fees and their salaries that they pay, that's a pass-through to the lifeguards and other staff that they hire for the season. Other expenditures, which include the chlorine and other chemicals and materials. And then so the far right side there, you see the total expenditures. In the extreme right column, you see that net income loss statement. And I'm sure you see there that FY18 to the present, it's always been a loss at the water park. Obviously in FY18 it was not a huge loss, but as the years have gone on, that has increased steadily. FY20 and 21, note that obviously those were affected by COVID, so those numbers are kind of anomalies there. But if you focus in on FY22, 23, and then we're projecting for FY24, you can kind of see that steady increase or steady loss over from FY22, 23, and then what we're projecting for FY24. Again, the FY24 number, that includes through June 30 next year. We're projecting out those costs, so just under $900,000 for loss. So we have a couple slides for some of those operational costs that we've seen increase over the last couple of years. A big one is staffing cost increases. Due to labor shortages that not only ourselves but private businesses, many different entities have experienced over the last couple of years, pretty much since COVID, post-COVID, dealing with these issues. We made the recommendation, City Council approved this, to increase the lifeguard pay, $12 minimum state of Missouri minimum wage. We actually opted to go to $15 an hour, just again try to get folks interested in taking those positions. Obviously, there's a cost associated with that. So you see that first line there. Spread over 2 seasons, that's just over $250,000. Training reimbursement as well. A lot of lifeguards, teenagers, challenged to come up with $100 or $200 for lifeguard certification. They have to front that money before they can actually work. And so we worked with MPM to do kind of a cost share program where if the lifeguard worked through the entire season, we fronted the money, and if they quit early, they would then have to pay us back. But if they made it through the season, then they got that. In essence, their training was paid for. Again, there's a cost associated with that. But again, trying to keep our features open, all of the facilities open at AO. I should note, prior to doing this, some of the water features, when lifeguards weren't available, they would just have to shut down sections of the park. It's just the reality of not having enough staff. And then the last bullet point there, just kind of talking about the Missouri minimum wage. That's increased 57% from 2015. And again, that's very small numbers there, but basically $7.65 in 2015 through $12 an hour in 2023. So again, we opted to go to 15 for the lifeguard, so that's above and beyond that pay, but obviously for concession staff and other folks at the front desk, those minimum wage increases affect our contract. And lastly, operational costs, so just maintenance costs in general, pump room repairs and replacements. Again, we're talking about an 18-year-old facility. Things break, things wear out. We have to continually address those issues. So slide repairs. We've had a water retention issue for a number of years, trying to address that issue. Landscaping, you continually have to maintain and upgrade the landscaping. Supplies and material cost increases, so just the very nature of inflation that all of us have seen across the board the last couple of years. So chemicals, inner tubes, paint, lounge chairs, all of these items as we go to replace them. Some of these items being literally from the opening in 2005. So we've gotten the benefit of those, chairs and other items, amenities, the value of that. We certainly got our money's worth, but then when we go to replace them, obviously a cost associated with that. Facilities age is just, we're getting to the point where a lot of those repairs and replacements are at the critical point, so having to expend a lot of dollars to do that. And then lastly, I've already touched on inflation, but freight charges, supply chain issues, all of those combined to just increase costs significantly. Switching gears a little bit, talk about capital costs. I alluded to this earlier. So again, we have not added any new features to the park. Here is a list of not only maintenance items, but adding a new water feature. Now, and if hopefully you can see that well, down the almost to the bottom of the screen there, $8 million for a new wave pool or surf pool feature. That may seem like an exorbitant amount, but that's really the nature of what we would be looking at in a year or two if we were to make that major change at the park. So between those maintenance costs or the potential for a new feature that would, again, hopefully increase attendance, increase interest in the water park, looking at $12 million of capital costs in the near distant future. However, it should be noted that the recent general obligation bond that has been discussed starting in September, none of these, that $12 million, that is not included at this point. Again, we know that what was put together for the GO bond is, obviously up for change at some point, but the $12 million was specifically not included in that. We do have $75 million, at least at this point on the list, for a new recreation center. We would anticipate with the new recreation center that would include an indoor aquatics feature as well as an outdoor aquatics feature. Most of our regional neighbors, Liberty, Blue Springs, Lee Summit, that's really the model, and that's what you're seeing. When Blue Springs opens next May, they have an indoor and an outdoor aquatics component with their rec center. So we would anticipate our new rec center would have that. So again, $12 million. If we invested $12 million in capital into the current AO facility, that's simply for a 12-week summer time period, summer season, and would not allow us to use that all year round. That is not included, again, in the proposed general obligation bond list at this point. Talk a little bit about attendance. So we went back to FY18, or excuse me, 2018 season. So you can see almost 66,000 participants, slightly decreased in 2019. 2020 obviously zeroed out. That was a COVID year that summer. Post-COVID, we have not seen the rebound. Now, it should be noted, again, the first 2 weeks of 2021, it was open to anyone, and then we quickly went to that resident only. Obviously, that affected those numbers. What would that have been if we had not made that change? It's hard to know at this point. But again, given the circumstances, we felt that was prudent. But this does show the attendance for the last couple of years. It should be noted there at the bottom, 45% of attendance is the daily pass sales. So that makes up a huge component of our revenue. Also note that we're in a situation with our outdoor water park. It's obviously weather dependent. So bad weather, cool weather, it can delay starts, lightning. Obviously we want to keep our patrons safe. So this last summer we had 14 days that either had weather alerts or delays, causing a delayed opening or an early closure. So obviously those are factors that are out of our control, but certainly affect our revenue and participation. So some of the city staff follow-up items, again, at the October 13th study session, a council member's proposal, it was mentioned to provide free passes to city residents. That led to a lengthy discussion and several follow-up items for city staff. So we were asked to come back with recommendations on implementing free passes to city residents. Staff was asked to provide information to the Park Commission and ask for their feedback. And staff was requested to take a deeper look at the financial viability and present information to the committee here. So what we did, we weren't exactly sure of if it was 2 free passes per resident or 2 free passes per household. So we ran scenarios on both of those options. We also chose a rather low redemption rate, so you can see there. We chose to go from 15% to 25%. Again, it's kind of a hypothetical guess at this point. But on the left-hand side of your screen, or kind of the center there, I guess I should say, 2 free passes per resident. That ranged from $329,000 to $549,000 is what we projected. That would be an additional loss to our current revenue. And then on the right-hand side, 2 free passes per household. That is less, obviously, it's per household instead of per resident, but again, a range of $147,000 to $246,000. At the bottom there are just some administrative charges that we also think would have to be added in. But either way, the bottom line is that would be a sizable additional loss if we were to implement those programs. So we internally decided or talked about some alternatives to free passes. So these could be some options in lieu of that, just sending out some free passes. We could offer drawings for buy one, get one free. Again, if the goal is to get more people there, to spend their money, bring family members, maybe one person gets a pass, but you're getting the benefit of others attending. So that might be an option. Partner with school groups to reward students, say on the honor roll or other programs, again with a buy one, get one free pass. Offer buy one, get one free passes to residents who perform, city services, park cleanups, volunteer work hours, et cetera. Might be another option that we could implement. At the bottom there, we do note the only example we were able to find since 2005. In 2005 and for a couple of years after that, there was a $1 off daily admission coupon. I believe that was, our understanding, it was not mailed out to all city residents, but if you would say go to the Sermon Center or a city facility, you could get a printed copy of that and you could redeem that $1 off coupon. So that was available in case folks were interested. A couple other alternatives, so just to follow up to that slide, we kind of ran some numbers here. If 20,000 buy one, get one free passes are redeemed, that'd be a lost revenue of 180,000. However, it might encourage others to visit. So again, might be something we can explore. Each coupon is a $9 value for residents. That's a daily admission rate, so that should be noted. One of the ideas also we wanted to bring to your attention, so we have talked about the possibility of actually opening Adventure Oasis back up to non-residents. It seems that the initial, or the issues that created that triggered the decision to go to residents only, that has subsided. I mentioned that Kansas City at the time had multiple pools, water parks that were closed post-COVID. Those have since reopened. So that kind of issue has resolved itself, we would believe. So if we were indeed to open up this next May for anyone to go to the water park, we would project that would be about a $381,000 increase to revenue. So again, we wouldn't be not losing money, but we'd be losing less than we are currently. There's just some more information about opening up to non-residents that we wanted to share with you. So the bottom line there, I guess, is what we should focus on there. So FY24, again, this is projected. Instead of that previous loss that we showed you, the revenue would increase to $546,000. We'd only have a $625,000 loss in revenue. And I should note that third bullet point there, most recreation programs, this is kind of industry standard. If we're getting a 60% cost recovery for recreation programs, that's deemed as, being a good program. It is interesting to note that, and I'm not sure why this was included, but the 2010 Parks Master Plan, which is the current Parks Master Plan we have in place. We are working on updating that, but they actually recommended 100% cost recovery for Adventure Oasis, which I do not know how on earth you could ever get 100% cost recovery, but that's what the master plan recommended. So here are our staff recommendations regarding Adventure Oasis. We would recommend opening up Adventure Oasis to non-residents for next summer season. As I mentioned, we are going through the process for updating our Parks Master Plan, and we would anticipate that would be completed next, late spring, early summer. So we would defer to them, or defer to the plan as far as, which would include public input about what would be the best long-term decision for Adventure Oasis. So going through that master planning process, public input, meetings with stakeholders, rather than making a rash decision, actually involve the public in that decision, and that would come out of that master plan. AO is already operating at a significant loss. We don't recommend proceeding with free passes or coupons, so at this point that would not seem to be prudent. As I mentioned, this was presented, the same presentation to the Park Commission on Monday afternoon, and they basically concurred with our recommendations. So they agreed opening up to non-residents for the summer 24 season. They agreed with that, and also utilizing the Parks Master Plan to kind of guide a long-term decision on AO. And then they also did not they also agreed that it was not a good idea to recommend offering free passes to Adventure Oasis. So with that, hopefully I have covered all the follow-up items that you were hoping to have addressed or answered, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have some. Going back to your income expenditure analysis, it does look like, so correct me if I'm wrong here, but in fiscal year 2018, we were managing this in-house. Is that what?
No. Midwest Pool Management has always managed that. They've always managed the water park.
So, but there's nothing in there in terms of management fees or salary fees.
Yeah,
so.
unfortunately, maybe I didn't make this clear. Those numbers are we went from the J.D. Edwards Financial Systems to Munis now, and and Nancy or Cindy could speak to this better than I could, but a lot of that information is available in large numbers, but we don't have the detail necessarily available to us. So when we put this together, we have that number probably somewhere, we weren't just able to break it out. Okay. But that is included in those total other expenditures.
My general observation was that it looked like back in that year, we came relatively close to breaking even.
We did. Yep.
And that may have been why the previous master plan, gave that as a target. But obviously things have gone south since then. Let's see, there was one other question I made note of, if I can find it here. When it says water retention repairs, does that mean we got leaks? Is that what that means?
Yes, unfortunately, we have had a water leak for, several years. Is that fair? And we have minimized it as best possible, but we have not been able to completely find where the water's leaking and address that. So it's just, the amount of water we bring in, we're continually bringing in new water. Water's leaking out of the park, unfortunately. So, not that we haven't tried to find that out and address it. But.
Okay, that's all for the time being here.
Director Heidi, so we don't have data at all about where our visitors live past whether they're independents or not independents.
Correct. Yes, we do not track that information.
It's complete speculation, but I would be surprised if it's a bunch of Kansas City people going over there, considering that that's so far, it's so much on the east side of town. And again, speculation, but with Blue Springs opening up, and Lee Summit being open, I gotta say that's been part of the reason that we are taking a little bit of a hit already. And when you couple that with the fact that if we're gonna be competitive in this space, we gotta throw a bunch of money at this. I mean, we have a choice to make.
I believe you're correct.
Ultimately.
Yes, correct.
We have a choice to make. I mean, so, did you have the discussion with the Parks Committee at all about shutting it down? Did you guys talk about that?
We didn't really go to that extent. This was presented at the end of the meeting, and I think the Park Commission was wanting to draw the meeting to a close. That was my sense anyway. They get to an hour and a half, and they're, anyway. But no, that topic was not discussed. But I think they really were supportive of going through the park master plan process and, public input, public buy-in, public feedback, utilizing that to make a decision. So that's the sense I received. I don't know if any other park staff felt any different, but that's what I took away from the meeting.
I agree.
When would a decision like that need to be made by if we were going to talk about going that route?
So our agreement, our contract with Midwest Pool Management goes through December of 2024. That's the, I think, 5th year. Does that sound correct? We are obligated to notify them. If we were to not open this summer, there is a time period we would have to give them ample notice, or there's, fees that we would have to pay. But if we were to go through the master plan process, see what the recommendation comes out of that coupled with the current contract ending in 2024, if the recommendation was to look at alternatives of not opening the park, selling, whatever the case may be, that would kind of dovetail with that contract ending at the same point. So if I made sense, hopefully I did that.
Yeah, I'm not so much worried about following the master plan as I am paying penalties if we have to. If the penalty is less than how much money we're going to lose, I'd be concerned about that a little bit. But
Well, if I could just elaborate. So
yeah,
there is, build up to the May opening. So lifeguards have to be hired, lifeguards have to be trained.
that's right.
And so Midwest Pool Management is expending funds, getting all of that set up, and that's
I'm sure they
starting,
are.
January, February time period. So that's what I'm alluding to.
I figured.
If the decision was not to open next May, we would have to make that decision like in the next 60 days roughly.
I would
to
think
not
so.
be penalties.
I would think so.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to have a similar question because, you talked about here about the program cost recovery rate, 60% would be standard. Well, right now we're at 28%.
Yes.
Proposed, or that's what you're projecting anyway. That's pretty painful.
We totally agree with that.
And have you talked about increasing the admission fees as well?
We look at fees every year as part of the budget process. We typically look at our surrounding communities and, kind of use them as a benchmark. We're right in line with neighboring communities. Our daily pass rate is $9. I think that's the same as Lee Summit. I don't know what Blue Springs, if they're going to have a higher fee because of their new facility, but typically we're matching, surrounding communities. So we don't feel like we have it would not be prudent to, be much higher, several dollars higher. I should note, though, prior to our resident only, we have always had a resident fee and then $1 or $2 more for a non-resident. So a non-resident has always paid slightly more than a resident to go to the Adventure Oasis.
Does Lee Summit allow non-residents?
Yes, they do.
Are Lee Summit and Blue Springs both operated by the city?
Lee Summit is operated by the city. Blue Springs, I do not know if they are going to contract or operate that on their own. We don't have that information.
Do you mean, are they city-owned or are they operated by a management company?
City-owned.
It is city-owned, but as far as the operation, I don't know if they're gonna contract that or not. That's one of the, and maybe I could expand on that. So, we actually took a look at if we were to take that back in-house, and, actually, I think we have that information. Kimberly, do you wanna share that? Again, this is kind of projected numbers. Currently, for the 2024 season, MPM's contracted to be just over $700,000. The low end for us to take it over would be $706,000, and the high end would be $825,000. The challenge for us, if we were to manage it in-house, Midwest Pool Management has the ability to hire lifeguards, and they're covering multiple facilities. So if somebody calls in sick, or they need to shift people around, they can send them to, they have that.
They have a pool
A pool to work from.
of people. Yeah.
We would not have that advantage. Lee Summit does not have that advantage. They have to just hire staff for their facilities. Now, Lee Summit does have several aquatics features, so they have, more than just Summit Waves. But that would be the disadvantage for us if we, and I think that's why historically it's always made sense to contract the operation of the facility.
Do we have any idea, this is kind of not probably a popular thought, but do we have any idea as to whether there would be a market for selling that particular facility?
I don't have a sense of whether there would be or not. That's not something we've explored at this point, but
I
we could
understand.
certainly proceed in that direction if you.
I mean, I'm just curious, it is, I would think it would have some value to someone, but I don't know what, or if that's a good idea. I just thinking out loud. So that's always gets me in trouble, but anyway.
I would not be interested in putting this operation on your plate without a management company. I can't imagine
Right,
that.
it doesn't look like it makes any sense to do that.
Wouldn't.
Well, let alone financially and then operationally,
no.
that's,
Right, right.
that is a challenge, so.
No.
We would have to hire quite a bit of staff to, to make that happen, so.
Well, and I would think as we move toward next summer and and we find out a little more about Blue Springs, if their rates are higher, then, Lee Summit's rates may come higher, then, we could raise ours a little bit, maybe, to help as well. And then by opening it up to non-residents, that would be, all be a positive thing in the pot. But it's still, I can't imagine us breaking even or even getting anywhere close.
Can you put the slide up for projected revenue next year?
Yes, let me go. It's clear at the beginning here.
I mean, because this is the risk we're running here.
Yes, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's the gamble.
the better part of it.
And we've got
I mean,
60 days to make that decision.
Did you project 24 to be residents only, or all?
Yes, a good point. So that is resident only, and then let me go to this slide.
So 846 residents only and 625 not with,
So that would be
wide
reduced
open.
by 200,000+.
and it was residents only because of police calls, right? That
We
was the
had,
deal?
in the first 2 weeks of 2021 season, if I remember correctly, we had more police calls than we had had in the prior years combined in 2 weeks. So literally, guns, knives, I mean, it was pretty extreme. It wasn't just,
Now, do we know
kids scuffling.
the residents of the folks that had the police called on them?
We did check on that. Just off the top of my head, my recollection is the majority of those were from Kansas City.
They were Kansas City?
Many of those under the age of 16.
So the real question is, gentlemen, our best case scenario projection is we'll lose $625,000 running a Venture Oasis next year at a projected attendance of, what was that going to be in the 60,000 people range 50 to 60,000 people range.
Let's see here, we talk about our increase, so I don't know if we have it. Did we put together total?
It probably was some,
But I don't think that included,
I mean,
41,000 residents, and then resident and non-resident.
but here's the thing. I mean, how many more years are we gonna do this?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, so what's the point? I mean, here's the thing. We're gonna have this discussion next year, and the next year, and the next year, until when?
The only benefit we get, in my view, by, moving past this year is we get the Parks Master Plan in place. That's the only benefit we get.
But what's that gonna say about it?
I don't know.
Spend 12
That's the whole
million.
reason, that's the whole point. is
Well,
I don't know
Well,
what
it's
it
gonna
says
say
on-
spend 12 million,
It
and-
might.
and then what?
It might say sell it.
Well, either way, it's not gonna say open it as is, right?
I wouldn't think so.
I mean, therein lies the rub, right? Like, it's not gonna say leave an 18-year-old park as is and open it,
Well,
right?
so let
So
me.
you open it until,
Well, if we're actually serious about talking about closing it, then as opposed to closing it, can we find out if there's any benefit, anybody out there that would buy it? And run it, maybe more effectively or efficiently than we can?
I don't know.
I'm just throwing that out.
What do you
Mr.
think? What do you
City
feel,
Manager.
John? Mr. City Manager?
I think your conversation is very spot on. I think one additional benefit from that Parks Master Plan could be the evaluation of this community recreational civic center that's being discussed as part of the larger GEO bond package. And how does that fit into our asset inventory? And could that become a community benefit that's utilized year-round in a more profitable manner? Not saying it will be fully profitable, but maybe less of a financial loss than it is right now, at a lower overall cost to the community. So that's probably the thing I'm most interested in getting back out of the master plan is, does this give us an alternative so that we're not closing one thing without a solution for the next? But I certainly agree this is not a sustainable path you're on, particularly when this is funded by the park sales tax and it's competing with all of the other needs in the park system.
Well, since we've got you here, so what's your recommendation as we sit here today?
Well,
If
there's
we've got 60 days to make a,
on this one, and there's no one that hates to spend money more than me.
I agree.
But in this case, I am sensitive to the folks in the community that this may be the only asset they have to recreate in the,
Summer.
aquatic center in the summer, whose family is priced out of going to Oceans of Fun or one of the other
Sure.
regional public municipal pools. I don't think we're on a sustainable path with this asset, but I think we need to have a plan about what we're moving to. I would say before we close this down, simply so that we don't have that emotional hit of not having any kind of summertime asset for our community.
So, give it one more summer, but
I'd say take one more hit, but it's not just that you're doing it, because we endure and enjoy pain. We're doing it because we're waiting to get that feedback from that Parks Master Plan, and also giving the council time to finish your informational intake on this general obligation bond issue.
The other thought I have about that is if we're going to continue for another year, that we do everything we can to try to increase attendance and, increase revenues and, try to I mean, I think the ideas of buy one, get one free makes a lot of sense. Try to get those out there. And, I mean, I don't think, it might reduce the bleeding a little bit, but it won't stop it. But
Maybe, maybe you can take back to the tourism committee, have them, Parks and
Commission.
Tourism, maybe take back and have them, you know, rack their brains with, you know, honor roll students and, you know, maybe they can get free tickets or buy one, get ones, or like you said, a lot of those ideas you came up with, people that do volunteer days, community service, maybe everybody that serves on a committee for the city, maybe they can get a family pass for a day or something, or,
no, we don't want a family pass. Hell, it's everything that we want to buy.
Yeah,
one, get
if we
one
could
free.
couple it with, one free and then we get 3 or 4 paid,
We gotta
that's
provide
what we would
incentive to
prefer.
get more people there.
something.
Just
whatever-
giving away free stuff doesn't
You know,
honestly help us.
well, you know, I don't know what we make on concessions or what's available.
We only make about $8,000 a year, which is, we get a percentage of the sales, so, off the profits. So it's really not,
That's not,
anything
that's
major.
not good either.
Yep.
Well, so,
Chairman?
yeah,
So if we proceed with this, just keep in mind, obviously, that there will be no more outdoor swimming facilities in the city of Independence. Hialeah has been long closed, Dickinson Pool's been way long closed.
oh, the campus.
Yeah.
Campus.
Has been closed, so this would be all.
Well, I know, that's what our city manager is saying, we need to ride this sick, sad, dying horse until we have a plan for another one.
See, we can't have some resurgent excitement. We kind of look around. I know Jody was around when this thing was being discussed in 2004, and it was open in 2005, and there was a lot of excitement back then for this
Mhm.
thing. 'Cause it
I'm sure there was.
It was the first of its kind here, and with our splash park, so it is running a loss. I have some thoughts, but maybe I can hash these out a little more than conversate with my colleagues, so.
You gonna put on a costume and go out there a couple of days, or what?
Those days are long gone.
Put him in a shark costume, huh?
Baby Shark?
Baby shark. There you
Baby
go.
Shark? Baby Shark Day
Boy,
with Councilman Perkins?
better wear your sunglasses.
I've got some coming. Okay, well, Director Heidi, it looks like you've escaped. You've done your job. You can go back to your committee and tell them that you did it, and to please help us out and come up with some incentives. You've done good work. We appreciate it, and you've lived to fight another day. The park has lived to fight another day, so that's good, and we'll see what we can do. So, thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank
And
you.
thanks to your staff and everybody. We're not trying to put you out of a job. I know you have openings. You've probably, everybody over there has like, I know everybody in the city has like 6 jobs right now, so I know you're fine, but
I told
still.
Chase I botched his title because he wears multiple hats, so it's
Yeah.
very seasonal what he's doing, so.
I'm sure.
Different.
So we appreciate it, though. Thank you much. Thanks for being here. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. We'll let Mr. Scannell go next. TIF presentation.
Is that what's next?
Are we going to hear the word sinking fund somewhere in this?
No leaks? This one?
I may have run across
Leaking
a certain former director at a certain coffee house in the last few weeks. He was real happy to see me.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You ready?
Thank you, Mr. Director Scannell. Yes, sir, please.
All right. Well, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. As Councilmember Hobart mentioned, my name is Tom Scannell. I'm the Community Development Director. So I'm going to give you the presentation on the 5-year TIF overview. This year, we are covering 4 TIFs: North Independence, Eastland Center, Mount Washington, and Independence Square. So the purpose of the 5-year TIF report, it's to determine if the redevelopment project is making satisfactory progress under the time schedule contained in those approved plans. All of this is spelled out in Missouri State Statutes 99.865. So the first TIF that I wanted to talk about is the North Independence. This map here shows the location. So over on the left-hand side, we have Highway 291, and Kentucky Road is along the north part of that map, running east and west. So this project includes 165 acres. It was the development of the 18-hole golf course, clubhouse, and maintenance building, as well as the construction of 4.5 million square feet of underground space. It also included public infrastructure improvements. That infrastructure improvement was improvements to Kentucky Road, widen that across the development's property. So the TIF plan outlined these as some of the objectives. Cure blight by improving Kentucky Road. It was addressing plating and other development issues, as well as the removal of trash and debris from the property. It was to encourage the orderly development in the redevelopment area, expand the tax base, but also enhance the public health, safety, and welfare by eliminating those dangerous and unsightly conditions. So this TIF plan was approved in 2000, and it was a 23-year TIF. So if you do the math, this TIF was actually closed back in September. So it is expired. But this TIF was going to capture 50% of the economic activity taxes. These are the sales taxes coming off of this project. So that would be sales from the clubhouse, as well as any retail sales coming from the industrial component. And it was also collecting 100% of the pilot. So this is the property taxes coming off of the property. So this provides the status of this TIF. So total project costs were estimated to be $40.6 million. The TIF incentive that was approved at the time was $4.2 million. The actual certified reimbursable cost. So what that is these are project costs that the city certifies that have been done and are associated and were outlined in that TIF plan. That total came to just a little over $1.9 million. This was a pay-as-you-go TIF, meaning that as revenues came in, the city reimbursed the developer for those certified reimbursable costs. Our next TIF is Eastland Center. This is in the southeast part of Independence, bound by 470 and Interstate 70. This was the development of 212 acres. It was to include 600,000 square feet of Class A office space, 400,000 square feet of retail, restaurants, hotels. It involved significant public infrastructure investment, as well as the design and construction of the event center. Again, some of the objectives of the Eastland Center plan: cure blight, to provide adequate street layouts, extend utilities to the site, remove anything that was unsafe and unsanitary. Again, encourage the orderly development within the area, build infrastructure, sidewalks adjacent and within the redevelopment area, as well as construct that mixed-use plan or project outlined in that plan. So this TIF was approved in 2000. 2000 was a very busy year. Again, 23-year TIF, that is the maximum length of time. This was capturing 50% of the sales tax coming off the property, as well as the 100% of the property tax. Eastland Center was closed back in July of this year, so again, we're down one more TIF. This shows the TIF status for Eastland Center, kind of gives you the snapshot. At the time, it was estimated to be a $254 million project. The incentive approved was $11.7 million. All of that has been certified. I think this one actually had closer to about $40 million of certified reimbursable costs. However, this was a pay-as-you-go TIF, so it only reimbursed up to that, to $11.7 million. So the third TIF is the Mount Washington TIF. This is in the northwest part of Independence and covers the Mount Washington Cemetery there along Truman Road and along the city limits. A little bit of the project overview. This is a 229-acre project. The plan sought to renovate the Mount Washington Cemetery, as well including the construction of a new mausoleum out there, as well as make improvements to the adjacent public rights-of-way. So again, it was going to address blight, address inadequate street layout, expand the tax base by encouraging private investment in the area, removing some dangerous and unsightly conditions, as well as to provide funds to construct that new mausoleum and chapel in the Mount Washington Cemetery. This TIF was approved in 2000, 23-year TIF, capturing 50% of the sales tax and 100% of the pilots. This TIF was actually closed early in 2022. In this case, we had a developer who was non-responsive, meaning the city had reached out numerous times, got no response back. The city at that time moved forward with closing the TIF early. So this provides a little snapshot. This was estimated to be a little over $8.7 million project. The incentive that was approved was just under $1.5 million. Unfortunately, the certified reimbursable costs only came out to $326,000. Early on, or shortly after the developer got this approved, there were some issues. I'm not exactly sure what occurred, but from my understanding was I think the developer had gone belly up essentially during the Great Recession. This TIF was a pay-as-you-go, meaning that whatever revenue came in, those funds were reimbursed. The last TIF I'm going to cover is the Independence Square. Again, this covers pretty much the square area. It's bounded by Nolan Road, Walnut, and Spring, and White Oak. Covers 78.5 acres. This was broken out into two pots of funding. The first set of funding was to fund public improvements, so that funded the Truman Streetscape, and a small portion of those funds were used on the farmers market up at Uptown. The other component was to fund facade and structural improvements to buildings within the square area. Over the last several years, we actually started that facade and structural program, I believe, in 2020, but since then we've had 22 applications. All of those have been approved. 8 of those projects have been completed, and 14 projects are in various states of under construction, nearing completion, things like that. So some of the objectives of this TIF plan, again, to fund those public improvements, but also to fund the facade and structural improvements, and encourage redevelopment within properties in the square. This TIF was approved in 2013, so this is its 10-year review. This TIF was approved for 23 years, captures 50% of the sales tax and 100% of the property tax. This provides the snapshot. Again, so the total incentive approved was just under $6.3 million. To date, as far as the certified reimbursable costs, we're just under $550,000. And again, this is a pay-as-you-go TIF. That concludes my presentation and available for any questions.
Just a couple, Mr. Scannell, and this is really just for clarification for in case anybody's watching. So, just for, go back a slide, would you? And this is just for clarification, like I said. So, if, in this example, the TIF incentive that was approved means the city agreed that it would divert $6,296,000 of tax money to contribute to this project.
That's correct, yes.
And the certified reimbursable cost that the developer or developers or to date has only been $549,000.
Correct.
Okay. So what happens if the TIF runs out and the $6 million doesn't get used?
Then any money that is within the allocation fund for that TIF gets sent back to those taxing jurisdictions. So that would be Jackson County, the school districts, the library districts, all those taxing jurisdictions. But whatever money is left in that fund gets diverted back to them after the TIF is closed.
Gotcha. So it still gets collected, it still gets, and it then it goes to wherever it would have normally otherwise been allocated.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't just magically go back to somewhere else.
Correct.
Okay. And pay-as-you-go, there are several different ways to do TIFs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And pay-as-you-go is sort of I would say the better way to do a TIF, because that way, in that case, you're not out any money until it's actually proven that the money's been spent.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So just to be clear, so the property owner would go ahead and pay their full taxes. Is that correct? And then the portion of it goes into this fund. Am I understanding that correct?
So with TIF, once the TIF is activated, the base level of the sales tax and the property tax are frozen at that level. And the TIF captures the increment above that. And
Okay,
that is the
okay.
money that gets diverted into the allocation fund, whereas the other revenue continues to flow to those taxing jurisdictions as it had before the TIF.
Right. Well, I thought that was the case, but based on the question, I wanted to make sure I understood. I misunderstood. So,
sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, and
Okay.
some of these TIFs have higher base eats and
Right.
pilots than others. Most recently, the council approved the hub TIF, and that had a fairly high base level because of it was an existing shopping center, and so those revenues will still flow to those taxing jurisdictions
All right.
as it had.
Okay. Good.
What, on the, for example, the Mount Washington TIF, how is it that the city was able to end that TIF early?
From my understanding, was, the city had made several attempts to contact the developer, and got no response. And I'm looking, do you happen to?
I
No.
agree with that. I think this one was a case of, us not being able to communicate with the developer, not getting any responses back. And it never really took off, like it was intended to.
Yeah, and I think at that time, the city said, we've received no response back from the developer objecting to us closing this. So we're gonna
Gotcha.
go ahead and close it out. Whatever funds we have in the allocation funds, those will get dispersed back, and all the other tax revenue will now flow to those taxing jurisdictions. So, this was a underperforming TIF by quite a bit.
Yeah.
This has been open for 22 years, and it wasn't even 25% of the way through the total incentive approved.
Well, there's
So-
not much revenue generating facility inside of that TIF anyway, I don't think, so.
I would agree, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
was that the gentleman that got wrapped up into the legal wranglings and bad business practices across this country?
From what I heard, it is the same individual,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. That's why I was thinking. I didn't want to speak too much out of turn.
You mean somebody was in Independence doing that?
Well, across the country, it was a pretty big deal.
Interesting. Surprised by that. Well, go figure. Well, anything else? Mr. Scannell, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sure appreciate it. Do you know off the top of your head, anybody know the number of TIFs we've got left?
11.
11.
And within the next year, so probably next year when I be here, we'll be down to 10. And that
You know.
includes the city council approving the hub
Yeah,
TIF. So,
the hub, with the
yeah.
one, adding one.
So when I started, we had 18. So.
Yeah, but we went up since then. Because we had, a few years ago, we were at 25 or 26. We got up to 25 or 26.
Yeah, we had grown some, and now we're on the tail end of these are closing and coming off, and it's a good feeling.
Out of curiosity, you were out in Lee Summit. What did they have when you were out there? Do you remember? Did they use a lot of TIFs out there?
When I was there, I think there were about 5 that were active.
That figures. That's what I wondered about that. Just curious.
Now,
That's so
now
good.
since then, I'm not exactly sure. What
Yeah, right. I don't know. Yeah, but
but-
they have several, John. Thank you. They have like 4 or 5. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Scannell, Director Scannell. Appreciate it. All right, Ms. Gray, Director Gray.
Yes.
Monthly financial presentation.
Well,
Go ahead.
We're gonna do a quarterly, since we're at a quarter.
Oh, that's a fair point. Wonderful.
So, the quarter ended September 30th. The reports you received are as of September 30th. And, we are actually doing pretty well for this first quarter so far. General fund is performing well. Few notables, in the revenues. Property tax revenue, we haven't seen that yet because that comes out here in November. So the next quarter report, you'll see the property tax revenues on the financials. Sales tax has been holding steady for us. We are staying really steady between a 5.5% and a 5.9% annual growth, which is above the CPI in the Midwest. So we actually budgeted for 4.5. So we're actually trending a little higher than what we budgeted. So that's a positive.
What's the Midwest CPI?
It was 2.9, I believe, is what I compared to the 5.9 9. So yeah, we're doing much better. The use tax is really exceeding our projections. Really surprised on how well our use tax is going. The general fund budgeted in '23 for 535,000, and our actuals came in just slightly over $1 million. So,
Double?
yeah, almost double.
Wow.
Yes, because of Wayfair.
So that's already, Wayfair's already started. For some reason I didn't think that started till '24.
23.
And it's a phase-in.
Okay.
That is correlated with the cable franchise fee. So as that's coming down, Wayfair's phasing in.
So it's not at full power yet?
No.
And that's why our cable fees are actually declining.
Yeah.
So you'll see that changing. So the waterfall for the general fund kicked in at month 9 last year. We are on trend to actually start seeing waterfall in the general fund in month 7, if all continues as it is. So that's a big plus. One note, the animal shelter, the levy that we use tax has already hit its threshold. So we're in month 3 and have already hit that threshold, that cap.
On the animal shelter side.
Yep. So now all use tax is now going to the police use tax until its cap is met.
What's the projection on that? Because we raised it, obviously.
It'll be probably around month 7, which is what, is that March?
Even with the raise we did, it's around month 7. Oh, that's excellent.
So that's when the waterfall into the general fund, once it gets met, then you'll start seeing it in the other funds.
That's good news.
So that's good news,
That's very good news.
yeah. Franchise fees, mostly the growth from any growth from franchise fees comes from the gas side of things, and that's what we just talked about. The cable is decreasing. Gas is really the one that's carrying the weight of the franchise fees there.
Okay.
Well, we've started out with a cold few days here, so.
Yeah, so maybe the second quarter will be a little bit better. Expenditures, we're pretty much on trend with expenditures. Usually in the first couple months, you'll see a lot of departments using the blanket purchase orders, buying, committing their funds for the full year. So you'll see some of those here. Nothing out of the ordinary. It's all running pretty on track. Couple notes. We are watching fire overtime and minimum staffing. Last year, they did go over budget on that, so we are watching those very closely, making sure that we're understanding how they're doing that and trying to help them get some control over that. Place is on target with their budget. We factored in a pretty significant vacancy with them just because of the hiring has been very slow for them. That too will be monitored. This first quarter, we've seen a couple unexpected retirements, so that had payouts, so that kind of kicked in. So we're going to be watching those very closely. The budget team, which is Melissa and Turner, every quarter they're going to be meeting with the departments and going over their financials with them, helping them figure out where can they cut, what can they do to help stay in budget. So we're implementing some guidance this year into the departments, which we hadn't really done in the past. So Turner has been developing some like the red light, green light, yellow light types, little warning signs, so that as you talk, I don't know exactly, he hasn't showed it to me yet, so, but he's in the process of developing this, to help them determine, hey, here's your piece of paper, if you see a lot of reds on here, there's a problem, and we need to be watching them. So we're developing some warning signs and systems in place to help us, and help you guys too.
Why is finance as low as what it is?
Hmm?
Why is the finance expenditures as low as what they are?
What, finance expenditures?
Yeah, it's 8.35%.
Oh, in the general fund?
Mm-hmm.
Because the finance department, if you're talking about the finance department, we are actually in the internal service fund.
Right.
So the finance department are only the finance fees that are associated with the general fund. And there's, I believe there's some Motorola contracts, is that correct, Nancy?
Yes, it's like a Motorola maintenance contract. It stayed in the general fund, which is for the radio system.
But finance tracks that.
Okay.
But the actual finance expenses are in the internal service
Well, it's
fund.
just, there's the budget amount is 580,000, and we've spent 48,000, so it's 8.35. I was just trying
That
to,
Motorola contract, it's due here in this first quarter, and so that's why the majority of that it'll decrease the percentage as the months go along.
The radio contract is in finance.
We could change the,
Yeah,
the row heading there to make it a little more transparent so that it
that's where it sat, so that's where it stayed.
That makes
I'm
sense.
just curious, so.
Yeah. So when you have when we're paying out those yearly annual contracts at the beginning of the year, you're gonna see that take a big hit in the percentage. So each month, the percentage starts to catch up.
Cindy, back to Turner, talking with our department heads, how's that going? That being received well?
We haven't started yet.
Okay.
Because we just finished up the September financials, and so we're actually probably going to be hitting a couple up tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes tomorrow.
So Tom Scannell just learned about this?
Yeah, we haven't told him yet.
I won't share it with anybody else. Receive.
So yeah, we'll be starting those up with this first quarter. I have a couple tomorrow, so we'll just be discussing. Yeah. But that is really the big ticket items. Some of the things, the use tax, we're averaging 55% increase over last year, and that's a big deal. So, but all the funds are doing well this first quarter. Not a whole lot to report, other than some of these really positive things at the moment.
When will we start getting the marijuana payments?
The marijuana payments just started.
Businesses started collecting on October 1st.
Yeah.
So we'll probably see the first payments come in to the city on our December disbursement.
Probably partial December, more
yeah.
so
And then it'll
January.
roll into
There's
January.
about a 2-month lag.
Will we be able to track that separately, or will it be lumped in with something else?
It has its own fund.
It does.
And I do believe the state does track it separately, am I correct?
Yeah, on the reports that we get from the
Mhm.
state, it has the different tax types by number. So we're able to look at what's general, what's street, what's parks, and it'll have the separate marijuana tax.
Gotcha. That'd be nice. Good.
We'll have little
Please.
charts.
Has the state discussed opening up more licensing for that? Have you heard?
I haven't.
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is all good news, obviously. I guess in a unrelated question, but your office question, how goes the digital timekeeping?
Glad you mentioned that. The digital time clocking is going very well. We are on track. They are actually right now doing some paralleling. So that process is going very well. We have time clocks in. We are working on getting the drops installed for the buildings that are gonna have an actual time clock that they swipe. We're able to use our current badge system. So for those who want to badge in, most departments are opting to log in by computer because most people have computers. So most of those will be computer or phone options. But the project is going very well. We're still on track for our January 1st implementation.
Switch over.
Mhm.
Police and fire,
They seem, so far, we're maintaining with them. So fire, obviously, we're gonna be discussing overtime issues, but as far as tracking time, everybody's on board.
You mentioned the FLSA issue with police and getting, correct me if I'm wrong here. As I understand it, one challenge that we are facing is that Ceridian, the company that is implementing the digital timekeeping system, is not interested in running counter to federal law. So they will not implement this based on the way our police currently calculate and earn overtime, because it's not congruent with federal law, as we've updated the council before. We have the resolution directing us to renegotiate that provision, but that police contract does not come due till next June. So we are working with the FOP on a memorandum of understanding to advance that so we can get the timekeeping implemented now and they can hit January 1st like every other department. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
gotcha. Okay. Well, I'm sure everybody will get that worked through, I'm sure of that. But otherwise, it's going well.
Yes. Seems to, so far,
IPL,
IPL seems to be,
the lights are on in this building, so that's good. Okay, good. Good. That's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that. Any interesting challenges with the combining the water department into municipal services?
I have not heard of anything that's been major, except that they want to actually have one department number in our accounting structure. So that's a challenge more for us, but it's just an accounting.
So that'll be working through the accounting issues
Yeah.
for you guys, but
Yeah.
I didn't know if that'll ultimately result in hopefully some maybe efficiencies of.
I do believe there will be some efficiencies coming forth as they continue to work through all of the combining of services and things like that. So I do know there's some talk of some efficiencies coming forward.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, we work on those regularly. Tomorrow is one of those meetings. So,
Have you been able to get on these meetings that you're going to get scheduled with your budget managers to meet with the department directors? Are you having any kickback from any of them?
no, because I'm kind of surprising them.
Okay.
Some of them
Well,
probably
now's
aren't
your
gonna
chance to
realize-
tattle.
Yeah,
There you
Uh,
go, Tom. We'll know where the leak.
Now's your
No,
chance.
I've actually, I have been taking staff with me to my one-on-one meetings with, like the utilities and, the departments. I've taken procurement along with them. We're looking at doing some revisions to procurement, policies, as well as the revenue policies. So each month I have a meeting with departments, and I've been taking staff along with me to let them showcase who they are and what they're doing and how they can help, and so this is part of that process.
Let me ask you something. One of the, my observation may be wrong. One of the things that feels like I've seen, that bugs me, is that a number of different departments use different credit card processing schemes.
Yes.
I only know that because I go to municipal court for clients, have. And I also pay my bill at the utility center, and it drives me insane. So I feel like there's these walled gardens of different departments that have operated like their own companies within the city. And
Right.
so, and I know that's true with timekeeping.
Yes, which is getting standardized.
So,
Credit cards is a little different because of the platforms that departments use. For example, Pet Point, which is one that the animal shelter uses, they are required to use a particular processor. The courts, through Show Me Courts, is required to use a particular processor.
gotcha.
And so they may not always be the same, and that's been a frustration. Jason's group, Tech Services, and us have been working to try to get as many on one platform as we can.
Yeah,
Parks and Rec, Pet Point, Courts, all three of those use different processors. And so you can, it's part of their program.
yeah.
And you can't just change them.
Gotcha.
So, we have been working with customer service as well as City Hall, ComDev, using the same processor to try to minimize yet another 2 or 3 processors.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that where possible, because that makes such a huge difference to a resident or a visitor, where the experience can be the same
Right.
across services.
Yeah.
It really does make a difference.
And we are working right now with ComDev, Health Department, and CIS on a portal so that things will be a little more smoother as well, to where they can make payments across the board.
That's great.
And there's vision, hopefully, of that expanding to animal services probably first, and then maybe even Parks and Rec. So municipal court will never happen because that's state mandated, but.
Understood. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It makes a big difference too for, just consistency of experience for visitors too. I mean, and it gives the city, we need to leverage our size, and
Yeah.
we're not doing that.
And that's what we've been trying to do
Yeah,
as much as we can.
I appreciate that.
CIS is the biggest taker of payments by credit card, and so they kind of drive a lot of the payment processing.
I very much appreciate that you're doing that, Cindy. That's, I very much appreciate that.
And that's one thing we are working on in the finance department. We are working on standardizing policies and procedures. So everybody takes money in the same way. Everybody reconciles the same way. Procurement processes, we're doing the same thing, using standard contracts, trying to get everything more standardized so it's easier for everybody to understand and use.
Very good. Much appreciated. Mr. Fears, council member?
I'm good.
We're good? We're good? Anything else? Anything else from you, Ms. Gray, your staff? Anybody? No? Looks good? Okay. I had,
You have something, a question?
oh, please, go ahead.
So, I don't know if we're in new business or not.
Yeah, yes, no, we're in new business. Yeah, we can go on to new
And
business.
Maybe I should have brought this up when we had carryover business, but
That's all right, either one.
on our minutes, we talked about that, we've been asked about the Crackerneck Creek TIF, and we made a motion in this group last time to get some outside opinion or counsel on that. I wondered if there was any updates on that.
I can check Lauber Municipal Law. Our attorney of record was assigned that, and I can check to see what the status update on that is for you, council member.
Okay, thank you.
Let's put that on our agenda for next time, please. Thank you very much. And we've got on new business, the management analyst update, and, of course, we're hopeful that we've potentially come across a potential candidate, if we have or have not, perhaps by our next meeting date, maybe we can have a,
Not maybe, no more by then.
if we haven't, then maybe we'll have another one or two we, as a council, have run across. So our recommendation would be that we have our HR recruiter, Mr. City Manager, focus on that area for the council, if that's
Yeah, absolutely.
agreeable.
Of course.
Thank you very much. We certainly appreciate that. Let's pick a date for a next meeting time. I kind of hate to wait until the entire next quarter, but what do you think, gentlemen? No, we don't need to go through the holidays. It's 4 months.
What would we normally be?
Well, we were doing monthly, but Cindy's done such a good job that I don't know that we need to
Kinda
do
gone
month.
to quarterly,
We
haven't we?
kind of gone to quarterly, but the next quarter would be March.
We did quarterly, then we went to monthly.
Well, next
through
quarter
COVID
would be,
and
February.
Is it February?
Right,
Well,
we
let's do,
have-
let's do February then.
or into.
October, November, December, so the end of the second quarter will be into December.
Oh, it will?
Yeah,
Well,
so either late January, early February.
We do a meeting in
But when do you normally have your
Yeah,
financial reports done?
late January, and then audit will also be done by then too.
late January?
We should have them by then. Yeah.
So,
I'd
all
say
right.
late January, early February.
So I was off. So, let's see.
If we like Wednesdays, January 31 would be Wednesday. Or if we need to,
24th, 31st?
Say that
I
again?
believe it's 2024 almost.
24th or the 31st?
Yeah. 24th would probably be pushing the financials for December. The 31st would be probably a little better. Wouldn't you say, Nancy?
The 7th of February is not ideal for me.
Well, 14th, you don't got anything going on, do you?
Actually, I probably won't.
I mean, the 31st
You're
would be
married now,
fine.
so
Every day's Valentine's Day. Yeah.
That a kid. That a kid. That a kid.
let's go with the 31st.
Would the 31st be okay, you think?
I think that should be fine.
Let's do the 31st then, 3 o'clock at the utility center. Is that all right with everybody else?
Mhm.
I'm good with that.
Will this spring be back up by then? Yeah. Correct, right, it's November, December.
All right, if everybody's good with that, then we'll say the 31st of January. I like that. That's a good day.
Motion to adjourn.
Go for it.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
No objection, motion carries. We're adjourned.